This month's ink is the gripping story of Claire Nelson's near-death experience when she falls whilst hiking near Joshua Tree National Park. The budget wouldn't quite stretch to flights to the States, so this month's remote reading comes from God's own country with Caley Crags in lieu of California. Mind the dog. Sometimes during my recent travels, I'd read an article about the experience of astronauts who, after bearing witness to planet Earth from space, described an overwhelming awareness and profound sense of universal connectedness, something that came to be known as the overview effect, an emotional response sparked by a greater perspective. And I realised that within the course of my own life trajectory, I'd lost my overview. Maybe I was just too busy looking inward. What I was missing was a sense of awe. What I needed was to feel not just inspired and connected, but inspired by and connected to something that was real and solid, which asked nothing more of me than to be myself. Perhaps this is what led me to seek solitude in the outdoors, in the great, wide open. And here I was now, revelling it in. It was hard not to feel very satisfied when I thought of all the decisions that made it to this point. Driving through the desert, no one else around for miles. Hiking alone is so very different to hiking with other people. And you're either someone who's into it, or you're not. It's like travelling alone versus not. Both are valuable, both are brilliant, but how you engage with the world around you is entirely different. I love to grab a friend, or a few of them, and hit a trail together, but more often than not, I go by myself. And while much of the time this is circumstantial, there isn't usually someone around or available to take with me, it's also a deliberate choice. I make a deliberate choice to hydrate, something I bet Claire wishes she could have done. Walking in my own company is one of the best opportunities for being alone with my thoughts and reconnecting with myself. It's only me and the earth beneath my feet, the relief of feeling suddenly insignificant, just another animal on the plains. In solitude, everything is heightened. Sounds, scenery, the palpable sense of being right here, right now. Being alone in nature, with only my thoughts and the great wide open, is an utter, immeasurable pleasure. Hiking is my meditation. The liberating space of wilderness is the greatest place in which to clear my mind. There you go. I think Claire nails it there. Right in day one of things I learnt from falling. In fact, walking takes me right out of my head altogether. Otherwise, I can become easily trapped in it, locked in there, climbing the walls, slowly going a bit mad. Everyone, I think, has those places or environments that bring them calm and clarity. I can be alone in my thoughts with any old place, at home, in bed, in the corner of some coffee shop somewhere. But there's just something about being outdoors and away from civilization, on a path, just putting one foot in front of the other, that helps me metabolize my emotion in a way that nothing else seems to. Oh, what a fab phrase, metabolize my emotion. I love that. Nice. Walking alone affords me the time and space to discard mental clutter, air out my ideas, stretch my emotional legs and simultaneously breathe, feel a sense of calm and be absolutely, unequivocally present. Lying there in the canyon, I tried not to dwell on the might have been and the never was, but it's difficult not to. The sorrow and the self-pity crept in anyway. I found myself considering all the various chapters of this life I'd lived, the places I'd been, the people I'd met, the people I'd been. I thought of my lives in chapters, full of lives lived. the insecure self-assuredness of my teens, the chapter with the bad boyfriend, the hedonistic London years of my 20s, doesn't say if they're connected, the chapter with the good boyfriend, maybe that was the one that was connected to it, the introspective London years of my 30s, the countries I'd travelled to, the people I'd met, conversations had, and lessons learned. Scenes and moments drifted through my head like a revolving studio backdrop. The jobs I'd had, God, so many jobs. Glimpses of travel flickered through my memory. A New York autumn day strolling down Central Park, eating sea urchins on the back of a boat in an Icelandic ocean, drinking beer in a tiny tapas bar crammed full of exuberant post-football Spaniards. I'd seen and done so much, hadn't I? I'd had a great life. I had no right to feel anything but grateful for what I'd crammed into my 35 years. And it's funny, when you think about the tiniest details that you once worried about, the crooked teeth, the guilt of skipping the gym, stressing over a thing that I once said, worrying about never having any savings, or the crushing anxiety of fucking up at work, the fear of failure and of never being good enough, it didn't matter. None of it actually mattered. Being here and looking back, of course I asked myself whether I had any regrets. Did I? No, not really. Regret is such a strong word. All my mistakes and poor choices and bad behaviours, they might not be things I'm proud of, and there's a lot I would like not to have done, but they shape me. How could I regret the times I'd fallen when they taught me how to get up stronger and stand more firmly on my own feet? I didn't regret not bringing a pocket knife. That was a mistake. I didn't regret coming on this hike. The fall was an accident. Making mistakes and failing and making decisions that didn't work out as expected were part of life. I couldn't regret those things because they were marks of having lived. Regret, as far as I was concerned, was the stuff you couldn't forgive yourself for. And I knew then that there was one thing. I thought about the amount of time I'd spent, time I'd wasted sitting in my room pissing about on the internet. Hours on social media, clicking links, flicking through apps, sucked down the rabbit hole of nothingness. Hours of my life just thrown in the bin. Gone like precious dollar bills fed into a slot machine that gives out nothing. I'd gambled away so much of my time on something that gave nothing back, and that was a painful truth. We're so afraid of being bored, we're practically programmed to fear and avoid it at all costs. A powerfully charged distraction fell right into our laps. Twitter feeds, Instagram posts, always updating, always flickering, always pulling us from where we were into somewhere and something else, into the void. Social media had given me a place to share and discover, but just like the tiresome habit of photographing everything I ate, it became a mere time suck, not a valuable exchange. In the end, I wore my smartphone like a digital prosthetic and used the internet as a stopgap for thought. Digital polyfiller and the spaces where ideas might have bloomed. That's brilliant, isn't it? Digital polyfiller and the spaces where ideas might have bloomed. Day after day, I was hungrily digesting information I didn't even care about. Barely retained and sure as hell didn't need. Jesus. When I think of all the things I might have done with that time, the books I might have read, the skills I might have picked up, the things I might have achieved, the sticks we might have found, the things I might have written, had I just given my mind the chance to be bored and be present. To offer it the space to wander free and aimlessly instead of jamming it full of other people's projections and trivial stimuli. All that time wasting was just that. It gave me nothing back, but taken so much opportunity away. I'd wasted so much time, so much life. I didn't regret the person I was. If I regretted anything else, it was not accepting who I was, not embracing her fully and wasting so much of what I was capable of on the fear of not getting it right, of not being vulnerable. If you're going to get right down to it, my greatest regret was fear. The utter bloody pointlessness of it. That was the regret. Wasting all that precious time distracting myself and putting myself out there, connecting, creating, finding my voice. Precious time, frittered away, and on what? I can't even recall. Some very wise words there from Claire Nelson. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation this month. Hope you can join me. I'll be there. Hopefully Titus won't be there. The life we live is an unmarked trail, one of ascents and descents, of changing perspectives and fresh views to take our breath away, along with the constant risk of canyons and slips and of phases of inclement weather. By the very nature of the course, mistakes will be made, we will get lost, we will fall, and it will hurt like hell. Sometimes we might question whether we can even carry on, but we walk the trail anyway, because that's what it is, not only to exist, but to live.